Lights are on the brand new gantry we've got here at Snetterton. We're about to get day 2 of racing for the Classic Sports Car Club underway. The lights go out and they charge their way up towards Ritchie's corner. Stuart Dayburn side by side with Stephen Scott Dunwoody, who is not quite going to be able to wrestle the lead of the race away from the pole sitter Stuart Dayburn. So it's the TVR Tuscan that leads as they head through Ritchie's for the first time. Stephen Scott Dunwoody running there in second position. Mark Chilton is there in third place, and it looks as though Rob Holliman has got the jump over the red Porsche in the hands of Miles Maserati. So Miles has dropped from 4th to 5th.
Indeed, but you can never discount the Maseratis from anywhere. You've got to think that Miles is partnered up with Piers, who's a previous British GT champion, so there's racing very much in the family. There's Ryan Moan, you saw on the outside line coming through Palmer there. 2 of the 944s battling. There is the mighty Chilton, who always oddly has one headline missing. That seems to be a characteristic of that particular car, but he's gotten ahead of Stephen Scott Dunwoody. So the Godzilla Skyline up into second position now, chasing off after the Tuscan, but already Mr. Dayburn has got himself a bit of daylight. Wow, and Max Chilton has I knew I'd do that at some point. Chilton is already gotten a run on Stephen Scott Dunwoody. That Sierra's in trouble. He's falling through the field pretty quickly, so trouble already for Stephen Scott Dunwoody.
Yeah, such a shame, Stephen Scott Dunwoody. We've seen him racing Ford, Sierra, Cosworths and Sapphire Cosworths in the past, always very, very quick. He has been a race winner numerous occasions in the past in the Advantage Motorsport Future Classics. The squabbles continuing down through the order as well. You can see there the number 33 Stephen Robertson driven Mazda MX-5, hot on the heels of Chris Pidcock's 924. Rob Holliman having already now picked the pocket of Stephen Scott Dunwoody, so that's one Porsche he's lost out to. The 964 has gone through, but he's now under pressure from the 911 Turbo, the red car that sits behind, which is Miles Maserati. So 3rd, 4th and 5th heading round through the bomb hole. The leaders just up the road, with Stuart Dayburn leading and Mark Chilton there in that Nissan Skyline R32 in second position. I think not the missing headlamp, I think it's an air intake either for the brakes or for the turbo is the way that he's managed to structure that. So that's why a light's missing, because it gives an air intake somewhere for him.
I see over the line then for the first time in anger, and Chilton is just running off after the Tuscan. And again, the lovely roars and screams of our various engines over the line. God, that's Sadler side by side with one of the 944s just coming down into the first turn. Then a big argument of BMWs. That's the right BMW that's being challenged and already overtaken into that first turn. Matt Irons at the back of that particular pack. Again, that's a lovely characteristic we have here in the Classic Sports Car Club. There is always someone to fight. There's the number 75. That's Matt Lewis in the Marcos being challenged by the Maserati Porsche. Strange sentence, but that is exactly how it stands. I'm a little surprised that the Porsche is struggling. It looks like it's either struggling or just maybe it just hasn't got the tyres up to temperature. I thought it'd be a bit towards the sharper end, but not taken away from Matt Lewis in that Marcos Mantudo, doing a stunning job.
Yeah, so that was on the run out of Wilson Hairpin, where he made his way through and got the job fully done by the time they got towards Agostini. The pair are just picking their way out of Hamilton now up towards the braking area for Oggies. The 2 red cars, the Marcus ahead of the Porsche. The Porsche, of course, closes up under braking, but the gap just sort of stretches a little bit as they work their way out of the corner. 3.9 litre Marcos Mantulo coming under pressure from the 3.3 litre turbo Porsche that sits behind, and in a straight line that Porsche is, I think, still losing out to the Marcos Mantulo. So down towards the bottom section of the circuit they will be threading their way, which is where the race leaders are at the moment. Stuart Dayburn was leading by 2.5 seconds at the end of the first lap of racing. We've got another good little fight going on as well. That's for 7th and 8th place. That's between the 2 Porsche 944s. Number 47, Ryan Moan, who also spends a fair chunk of time rallying, does Ryan. He is coming under pressure from 51 that sits behind, and that is the similar shaped car, but the 944 Turbo in the hands of Richard Harman. That's a good fight to watch out for. Yeah,
absolutely. We see Richard Harman and James Slater in the Tin Top series. They usually drive a Civic, so somewhat of a difference between the two cars. We're now seeing the first racing, full racing laps onto the board, and Dayburn so far absolutely untouchable with 2:06 on the board for him. 3.8 seconds now separates him and Mark Chilton. Holliman in 3rd. Stephen Scott Dunwoody is holding on to 4th position. As we continue to watch the Maserati Porsche, he's losing ground against that Marcos. Yeah, I'm a little surprised the Porsche hasn't got a bit more grunt behind it. Are they being caught by the 2 944s behind them? Let's have a look at the lap times. Yes, so Miles Maserati is being caught by the Harman Slater and Sadler Schlewitz battle.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see as to whether Miles Maserati can hang on to the place or whether those Porsches will continue to just close up. We are now literally only 5 minutes away from the pit window opening as well. It opens very, very quickly. It's a 40-minute race, but it opens after the first 10 minutes. And in this particular series, it is as quick as you can conduct that pit stop. So solo drivers have to undo the seat belts, turn the engine off, get out of the car, open and close the door again if that's what you need to do. Stuart Dayburn can't because of his TVR Tuscan, and get back in and off they go. So it's as quick as you can do it the way it works in the Advantage Motorsport Future Classics. The squabble's still continuing as well, down towards Agostini at the moment. The pit lane starter, Sam Smith, has made really, really good progress, working his way up through the order. He gained another 5 places last time through at the wheel of the pink Mazda MX-5. That now promotes him from the pit lane start up into 14th position, having been 19th on the previous lap. So impressive stuff from him. He's picked off another couple of Beamers, hasn't he, that time through. The black one with the gold flashes to it, he has managed to squeeze his way through. Michael Wright, and also the number 37 BMW, probably the oldest Beamer that we've got in the field, because that's an E21, isn't it, of Matthew Irons. So yeah, that pink Mazda, I did say it would go well. Indeed it is.
You were thinking of the pink Porsche there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. That MX-5 is just carving its way through the field at the moment. And also, the BMWs are still shuffling around. As we can see now on this stream, we see there's that 944 battle we were talking about earlier, the 51 and 47 cars. Richard Harman now ahead of Ryan Moans. They're coming through Murray's to finish their next lap. As the top 3 are absolutely miles apart now. Stuart Dayburn still running off into the distance, and there you see the Maserati Porsche. There's Richard Slater. It's coming away. There is the Maserati Porsche again, and look at the gap now that is between him and Matt Lewis. There is the Marcos. So again, that Marcos is really getting into its stride now. Great lap times. Actually, Matt Lewis was nearly matched, was actually half a second quicker indeed than Stephen Scott Dunwoody in that mighty Cosworth Turbo. Well, not proving particularly mighty today. Looking at Sam Smith, he's gained another 2, hasn't he? He's out to 12th position from starting in the pit lane. Yeah, that was the 2 Beamers, wasn't it, that he got through on that particular lap. We also had a change for 7th and 8th that time through, because Richard Harman at the wheel of the 944 Turbo was able to work his way through and past the 944 Series 2 normally aspirated Porsche of Ryan Moans. And that's a shuffle for 7th and 8th positions that time through. Ryan Moan is just threading his way through Agostini, the way things currently stand. So Stuart Dayburn still continuing to lead. He also leads Group 2, which is for the 1980s cars, and leading Group 1, which is for the 1970s cars, is still Miles Maserati. So that Porsche 911 Turbo has lost a few places since the start, but it still leads its group. That's the important thing. And it will be the group winners, so both from Group 70 and the 80s group, that will pick up 30-second penalties for the rest of the season. So we need to consider that as well, as to how that is going to work its way through as the race plays out. Rob Hollyman at the wheel of the number 9, Porsche 964, just turning his way through Brundle, through Nelson. He sits there in a fairly comfortable 3rd place at the moment, Chris. Not really anybody to play with, has he? He's, 6 seconds behind the car ahead. He's got, 7 seconds in hand from the car behind him. Yeah, he's not closing in on Mark Chilton, which is nothing to be ashamed of. That mighty Skyline is impressive. Yeah, that car was yellow last time we saw it. That 964 is doing the rounds. Absolutely wonderful pace from the number 9. And he's doing a fantastic job there. He's just coming past our commentary position there. You can see on the stream, just over the line to complete another lap. Let's have another look at the lap times. Stuart Dayburn, he's basically in another galaxy right now with his pace. And Stephen Scott Dunwoody is now looking like he's going to be under pressure by Matt Lewis in the Marcos Mantula, as he's closed in 2 seconds in that last lap alone. So the Sierra is now going to have a lot of defending to do, as we can still see on the stream. The number 9 Porsche making his way. I think it was a little bit of a lock-up there. I always worry when we start seeing smoke. It's not usually the friend of cars, but he's still pressing on, now heading towards Agostini. Yeah, Rob Hollyman, that is, at the wheel of the light blue number 9
Porsche 964. And Rob has been a long time competitor with the Classic Sports Car Club in a range of things over the years as well. Latterly more Porsches, but not exclusively Porsches over the years. But as we say, he is sitting there third in the race, third in his class as well at the moment, because it is cars from the 1980s in Class A that occupy the first 5 places in this race at the moment. The first car that is in a different class is the leader of the 1970s A class, which is Miles Maserati. Richard Harman is leading, Ryan Moan is leading Class B from the 1980s. Rob Sadler, the number 3 car, is in 9th place. He leads Class C from the 1980s, but there's lots and lots of classes, probably too many to pick through. The pit window has now opened as well, so who's going to be, do you think, the first to roll the dice, Chris?
It's always difficult to say, isn't it? We try and surmise on who's going to bring the car in to serve the mandatory pit stop. I wouldn't be surprised to see Stephen Scott Dunwoody bring his car in, maybe to have a technician or one of his team have a look at it if there is some kind of problem they can possibly investigate. I mean, what you can do, trackside is always debatable. Who's going to come in quickly? I'm going to say that we might see the number 3, the Sadler-Schlewitz car, change hands relatively early. That's more of a guess than anything else. Maseratis, I would think that the 146 Porsche is going to change hands to Pierce sooner rather than later.
I agree with you there. That was the one I'd got in my head, that I think, yeah, maybe. Miles is not slow. Pierce is very rapid indeed, so it makes me wonder whether they might bring Miles in a little bit early. But it's still leading its group. That's the important thing. It might have lost places overall. We have got a few that have come in, though, because Rob Hollyman, the number 9 Porsche, has come in, as has Stephen Scott Dunwoody, and also the Marcus Mantis of Matthew Lewis. So that now means that that red Porsche that's just exiting Ritchie's now in the hands of Miles Maserati not only leads its group, which is the 70s group, Group 1, it's now moved up to 3rd overall in the race, and the largely silver number 51 Porsche 944 Turbo in the hands of Richard Harman that sits behind is now up to 4th overall in the race. It also brings number 47 Ryan Moan up into 5th, and the very beautiful, almost ITC BMW liveried car of Rob Sadler, the number 3 machine, stunning livery on that car, and the Warsteiner livery is now up inside the top 6.
Well, Stephen Scott Dunwoody did indeed bring his car in. He had the door open. He was chatting to one of his team. He's now back out on track, which is good to see. The Cosworth still rolling on. There goes the number 75 as well, the Marcos Mantuda returning to the track. The only one that's defied us so far is that one. Is the Maserati Porsche has yet to change hands to Pierce, but Ryan Moan also brought his number 47 car in, so he's no longer attached to the back of the Harman Slater car, the number 51. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that battle resume once that car is handed over to James Slater post their pit stop. So we will see how that translates. I mean, for the now at least, the battles have kind of dissipated a little bit. Fastest lap though is still belonging to Mr. Dayburn, who's just brought his Tuscan in.
I've had a spin for Chris Pidcock at the wheel of the Porsche 924S. That was down at the Wilson hairpin where he had managed to lose the car under braking, I would gather. He's now got it pointing in the right direction, will continue on his merry way, so no harm done other than time lost there for Chris Pidcock. As for the leader of Group 1, the first of the 1970s cars, Miles Maserati turns the red Porsche 911 Turbo out of Murray's, still with the 944 Turbo not that far behind. We've also got great battles going on between BMWs as well. We've got the number 25 black and gold BMW just threading out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight. That is in the hands of Michael Wright, but he's coming under attack from Matthew Irons. They're all being lapped by Stephen Scott Dunwoody's Ford Sierra Cosworth, and also trying to get in on the fun as well. I think that's Stephen Gibley, is it, at the wheel of the number 31 BMW. So yellow from black from orange now is the order that they're in, because Matthew Irons has gone to the front of that little trio.
Yeah, they've been arguing for track space for a while, but Matt Irons again now leading that little conga line. Yeah, Stephen Scott Dunwoody's just gone past them for, well, that is for position, because he's just served his pit stop. So that he'll be working his way back through the field. The number 79, that's Mr. Chilton coming back out on track. So Mark going to get that car up to speed. Oh, as you see, that's that's Michael Wright. Really had to squiggle to not slam into the back of Matt Irons. Matt Irons bringing his car in. Usually shares that car with grandson Jake Severs. The Severs family not here this weekend, so one of the few, if not the only grandfather-grandson racing combinations you'll find certainly in this country.
That car's been that colour as well for year after year after year. I've seen Matthew Wines race this car for the best part of it's got to be 20 years now. Oh, problems, I'm afraid, out on track and slowing down is the Nissan Skyline of Mark Chilton. Came out of the Wilson hairpin and all of a sudden he hasn't lost all motive drive, but it's just looking as though, yeah, that car is not up to full speed anymore. And I did say the car can be slightly recalcitrant and somewhat troublesome, but yeah, the rather highly strung Nissan, I'm afraid the mechanical gremlins have struck again for him.
Commentator curse count 1 to you, Mr. Werrell, or certainly for today's count. Yes, again, it's very much boom or bust, that car, isn't it? When it does well, it's absolutely untouchable, but alas, today is not one of those days. There is Matthew Irons going through the pit stop procedure. So as this is as Mark was explaining earlier, it was a fast as you can do it pit stop. You come to a halt, turn the engine off, belts off, open the door, get out, shut the door, open the door, and then reverse the process to get back underway again.
And the idea is, Matthew Irons, you rev the engine and start to drop the clutch once you've got it in gear. Don't rev it and drop it when you're still in neutral. So I think he lost maybe another second or so there, really. I've been there, done that, but he's out on track now. You can see him just exiting the pit lane and making his way up towards Richie's corner at the wheel of the E21 BMW. So we've got 24 minutes of the race remaining. 7 laps have been completed by Miles Maserati, who has now picked up the lead of the race, because we've had Stuart Dayburn in the grey TVR Tuscan into the pits and conducted his pit stop. So the 911 Turbo in the hands of Miles Maserati now leading the way at this stage by about 5.5 seconds from Richard Harmon's Porsche 944 Turbo. And up to third will come the 944 Series 2 in the hands of Ryan Moan. So that's the order that the top 3 are in currently. Remember, the pit window will close when we get to 15 minutes remaining of the race, so that is still 8 minutes away at this stage. So that's the equivalent of anywhere between 3 and 4 laps for the competitors, and we need to make sure that they're in the pit lane before the window closes. I think everybody was very well behaved with that yesterday. I don't recall at any point that anybody left it too late into the window and the window closed when they came in.
No, indeed. I was down in the pit lane yesterday, and the only times we saw cars coming in after the pit lane had shut were those that were going to retire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And it is quite a heavy penalty if drivers serve a pit stop outside of the pit window. If they don't serve it at all, this year, I believe, the ruling says they are excluded.
They are excluded, yep, so, absolutely.
Yeah, they have to take that very, very seriously.
I think it's a 2-lap penalty if you pit outside.
That's my understanding,
yeah.
Yes. Used to be a 30-second penalty, it's now a two-lap penalty. And now that we've gone back to the ruling, or at least for this series, back to the ruling of fast as you can, you don't have the short pit stop penalty that caught a lot of people out when that was very first introduced post-COVID, when we had a mandatory 2-minute pit stop imposed when racing was resumed. Anyone that had pitted for less than 2 minutes had a 30-second plus the amount of time you were short by penalty applied, and there is the Skyline. We're under the bonnet. That's never a good sign to see. So I'm going to head down to the pit lane and see who I can speak to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris is going to make his way to the pit lane. We might be able to get a word from Mark Chilton as to exactly what's happened with the poor old Nissan Skyline. So Chris he's going to get the steps in today, is Chris Buxton, because he's up here in the commentary box, and when the window opens, probably down in the pit lane, and then he'll come back to the commentary box and then back downstairs again for a chat to some of the drivers at the end of the race. But it certainly looks as though that is the end of the race for Mark Chilton. Lots of gazing being done. But of course, it's all rather hot under there, and unless you've got the right gloves on and the right PPE, you could argue, there's only so much you can do when you've got warm engines, very warm turbochargers. Ryan Moan, you can see in the background, getting hurled out of his car as the number 47 car resides in the pit lane. Runs Ryan Insurance, which are specialist motorsport insurers. So if you go racing and you want to insure your racing car, which is something that you can do, then Ryan's is one of the many companies that are available that could do that for you. Just being strapped in. Have to make sure that you're all fully done up, that the seat belts are over the hands device, and once they're all tight, you can then get the engine fired up, which is what Ryan Moan is about to do, and rejoin the race. Other cars still residing in the pit lane as well. The beautiful looking Claxton, Colin Claxton driven Triumph Dolomite Sprint, now being handed over to David Claxton. That also sits there in the pit lane at the moment. We've also got the beautiful Datsun heading out onto track as well, the 240Z of Mike Stevenson. We'll see more Datsun 240Zs out later on in the Swinging 60s Group 2 race as well. So there's always a fantastic mixture of cars in the Classic Sports Car Club, and we hope that we continue to see grids as strong as we've had this weekend throughout the season. We have had some mega grids over the course of the last few years. So 20 minutes remaining on the clock. So still some cars to come in and pit, including, of course, our race leader, Miles Maserati. Still Richard Harmon in second place, as yet to come in and pit. We've also still got the number 3 BMW of Rob Sadler to come in and pit. The first of those cars that has pitted so far is the grey number 70 TVR Tuscan in the hands of Stuart Dayburn. And I think we've also got a pit stop now occurring for the Maserati. So Miles Maserati comes in, vacates the lead of the race, and will hand the 911 Turbo over to Piers Maserati for part 2 of the race. So that's another one of our front runners now ticking off the pit stops. Ford Escort Mark 1 just heading out onto track as well. That will be Chris Smith's number 28 car that's just conducted his pit stop, car that we've not really mentioned much as yet. So more and more pit stops taking place. Those that haven't pitted as yet have got perhaps another lap, maybe 2 at the very most, to come in. Into the pit stop is the beautiful DTM liveried BMW. Rob Sadler jumping out, about to dive into that glorious number 3 BMW is going to be Luke Shailovich. So seatbelts being done up, and then we will see that car heading back out onto track. Stunning livery in that car. Already the Maseratis are back out as well, so it didn't seem to take long at all for Miles Maserati to hand over for Piers. Quick pit stop that for the 911 Turbo. As soon as they were in, they seem to be back out again. We've also had number 33 in as well, which is the other Mazda MX-5 Mark 1 we've got, which is Stephen Robinson, who's now handed over to Sam Moody. So the order will continue to shuffle, really, whilst we're still getting all of these pit stops done. Now, Stuart Dayburn is still the first car that has pitted. He is now up into second place, the winner of this equivalent race last year. But the car ahead of him hasn't pitted, so Stuart Dayburn, normal service should be resumed in a lap or so's time, because there's only 3 more minutes before the pit window will close. And as for the news in the pit lane of what happened to what happened to Mark Chilton, I'm hoping we'll be able to hear from Chris Buxton shortly. He'll still be, no doubt, just trying to gather the story and relay it to us as and when there's an opportune moment. So the only car that hasn't pitted as yet, well, I think there's a couple that haven't. Les Conway hasn't, the number 62 BMW. He is down in 20th position at the moment, but also the car that leads hasn't pitted, which is the number 51 Silver Porsche. So that is still in the hands of Richard Harmon. James Slater is yet still to take over that car, so that is why it leads. Now, for that Porsche and for Les Conway's BMW, they need to come in probably at the end of the lap that they are on, because it's taking anywhere between sort of 2 minutes and 10 seconds or so to do a lap, and that's all they've got left before the pit window closes. Let's hand down that stairs though to the pit lane where Chris Buxton has got some news.
Thank you, Mark. Didn't catch up with the Chilton squad. They scattered as soon as they saw me coming, so my reputation clearly preceded me. But what I do have is Miles Maserati. Miles, how's the Porsche behaving itself?
Yeah, it's really good. It's nice to be out again, isn't it? It's not our first choice always nowadays, because we've got the other one, which is faster in a straight line and round the corner. So, but it's good fun. Yeah, it's always good fun, the red one.
So Piers is now out there. Who's generally the quicker of the two? We know that Piers has obviously had some racing success, but is there a bit of sibling rivalry going on?
No, unfortunately, he's just flat out faster than me, to be honest. So no, I mean, he's a good sort of like reference point for me. So, but yeah, he's always got the pace. I'll hand it over to him, let the professional do the work.
So anticipations, where are you hoping to finish today?
Well, I know that the Tuscan's generally too fast for us, and obviously if Chilton's fine, he's generally too fast as well. So just trying to get sort of as high up as we can, trying to stay on with Dunwoody and Holloman there. I know he's always quick, so just try and top 5. As long as we win our class, that's about as good as we can do.
Thank you very much, Miles. And Piers now out there in the Porsche, and we look forward to seeing their progress. Back up to you, Mark, in the commentary box.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, well, they're certainly winning their class, and at the moment they are winning their group. They are the fastest and the quickest 1970s car that we've got out there at the moment. So they are winning Group 1 for the 1970s machine. Now, there is still one car that hasn't pitted. It needs to pit within the next 30 seconds, but it has only literally just gone over the start-finish line, so it's not going to get back round before the pit window closes. So the number 51 car of Richard Harman, scheduled to be taken over by James Slater. I think Richard's enjoying himself a bit too much out there at the moment. So the other car that we were awaiting to pit as well has now pitted, just to confirm that. Les Conway has pitted. So there is the number 51 car. You can see the puff of smoke from the turbo as it accelerates its way out of the Wilson hairpin and up towards the left-hander at Palmer. So that is the car that leads the race overall, but not that far behind it is going to be Stuart Dayburn now at the wheel of the TVR Tuscan, who will have stopped and should, by the end of this lap, probably re-inherit the lead of the race, actually. So he's closing in on the race lead, but also closing on a car that hasn't pitted as yet. So the 51 Porsche out of Agostini up towards the left-hand kink at Hamilton, flicks its way through the left-hander, very fast corner, Hamilton. Use as much as the curb as you dare on the way out, but then get the car from the right-hand side of the circuit over to the left, so as to dive on the brakes and get it pitched in towards the next corner, which is Oggie's. The speed build up towards another quick corner, actually, the right-hander at Williams, but that's a key corner, Williams. You need to get Williams right, because if you get it right, you get a good exit off it, and you carry all of that momentum down the Bentley straight and in towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson, which is where the two cars vying for the lead are heading now. The silver Porsche ahead of the grey TVR. The TVR has pitted, the Porsche ahead hasn't as yet. So it is for the lead, but it's a squabble for the lead that we weren't really expecting, because this Porsche, now with less than 14 minutes to go, has got to move itself into the pit lane at the end of this lap. And Stuart Dayburn should pick up the lead of the race. Yeah, indicating to the left-hand side goes Richard Harman, which means that Stuart Dayburn squeezes his way through rather effortlessly at the wheel of the TVR Tuscan and now re-inherits the lead of the race. So through Murray's, are we going to see that Porsche come in this time through? One would like to think so. And it has peeled its way into the pit lane, but enters the pit lane with about 13 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. So we'll have to wait and see as to what the officials... Now, it didn't go past the pit closed board, so you read the regulations, and I think that's too late, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to wait and see. It's up to the officials to work out whether that number 51 car has stopped too late into this race, or whether, because it didn't pass the pit closed board, whether that is still deemed to be within the context of the way the regulations were intended to be read. So we're starting to see the correct order now form, with Stuart Dayburn's TVR Tuscan picking up the lead of the race and enjoying a 17 and almost three-quarter second lead from Rob Holliman. We've got a great fight going on. This is for 5th and 6th place, just heading out of Murray's now. The red Marcus Manchula in the hands of Matthew Lewis, coming under pressure from the red Porsche 911 Turbo of now Piers Maserati. We saw those two cars together squabbling in the early stages of the race. Well, they are now also still fighting for position and fighting for what will be 4th and 5th places overall. They're in separate classes. They're actually in separate groups. It's a 1980s car being chased by a 1970s car. So it is just for overall position, these two. And they've also got a little bit of traffic that they'll need to deal with as well before too much longer, because I think it's the number 62 BMW of Les Conway that lies just ahead. So it's going to be a busy lap, really. The first of those that he needs to deal with, though, he's dealt with Les Conway. Yep, so that's the number 62 Beamer lap. Now they need to work their way past David Claxton's Triumph Dolomite Sprint, which they should both be able to do on the run in towards Agostini, I would have thought. So through Agostini, back out of the corner. Yeah, the Porsche still not really within full touching distance of the Marcus Manchula. So Piers Maserati, BRDC member, pushing hard. Piers is also busy nowadays with his role involved in a new electric scooter racing series championship that's coming up, that's going to travel its way around Europe, promoting e-scootering. And it's not just for motorcycle racers. I noticed recently they've got skateboarders and surfers and snowboarders all involved in the series, bringing different people from different sports to race e-scooters. That's a very exciting championship that Piers is involved in sort of organising and managing. So his first thing he wants to try and do in this race, though, is hunt down the Marcus Manchula. He is closing in on it, actually. So down in towards Brundle and Nelson go the two red cars. Piers Maserati was a 10th of a second quicker through the middle sector of the lap. He was 0.2 of a second quicker though through the first sector of the lap, so that's what 0.3 gained on this lap. So it's down to what, 4-5 car lengths as they head round through Corham up towards the very difficult braking area for Murray's. And the Marcus and the Porsche aren't that far behind the car that lies ahead, which is in third place, which is Stephen Scott Dunwoody. But I think Chris Buxton has some more news from the pit lane.
I do indeed. I have got Richard Harman with me in one of the two drivers of the 51 944. Richard, have fun out there.
Oh, brilliant fun. Yeah, huge fun. Tyres started to get a bit warm towards the end, so battling a lot of oversteer at times, but that makes it really, really exciting. So, yeah, really, really good. So.
Now, we're used to seeing you and James in the tin tops class. What prompted the change to the 944?
Well, we've had this car quite some time. I mean, I've had the car over 8 years now. We ran it for a bit in 2018 in Future Classics, but I've been going through a full rebuild on the car, so this is its first time out in quite a good few years. But we love the difference between the Porsche and the Civic because they are just such different cars. So. Bit of a challenge.
I dare say. Now, we think you may have put it a little bit too late there. Did someone forget to hang the board out for you?
Well, I'd got a stopwatch on the dash, but do we think we might miss the window, do we?
Well, again, we'll see what the officials think, but we think, looking at the clock, you may have been slightly late on that one.
Oh dear. Well, could be a penalty coming our way, so yeah, be a bit gutted about that, but yeah, it's knowing when to hit the stopwatch in the car. We don't really bother with the pit board because of so much going on in the car that it's so easy to miss it. So, but we wanted to run long. It's my car. I'm quicker than James in it. Obviously, I got us into a decent position, so you know, wanted to go as long as I could. But we might have just pushed our luck a tiny bit too much with that. We'll wait and see.
You didn't want to share the toys. I can't blame you. Thank you very much, Richard, for joining us. So it's James Slater out there in the Porsche 944, and we look forward to the rest of the race. Back over to you, Mark, in the commentary box.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, good to hear from the driver there, Richard Harman. And I have a sneaky suspicion he knew that they might have overrun. You could just see the look in his eye, thinking, "Yeah, we've been spotted, we've been rumbled, we've gone too late." We'll have to wait and say. It's not up to me to worry about. That's up to the officials. But either way, you know, he's had a good run and he's the quicker of the two drivers. So strategically, it was the right thing for them to do, but it might just have come unpicked a little bit. So with 8 minutes to go, Stuart Dayburn leads by a fairly comfortable 23.8 seconds from Rob Hollyman's light blue Porsche 964. Stephen Scott Dunwoody heads up towards Ritchie's in third position now, and fourth place is now Piers Maserati. Piers Maserati has managed to work his way through and past the Marcus Manchula of Matthew Lewis, which I think may well possibly have had some problems out on circuit because it went really slowly through sector 2 on that particular lap. Has now dropped from 4th to 5th, and the sector 2 time looks as though there's a spin in it for me. Now, we didn't see a spin from our commentary perspective, but that kind of lap time, losing what the best part of 15-20 seconds, suggests there was a bit of a spin somewhere down through the middle of sector 2. We'll have to wait and see as to whether that was captured by our live stream crew and whether a replay might be coming our way. But either way, we know for sure time and positions were lost there on that lap for number 75 of Matthew Lewis. And I couldn't see any damage on his car as it came over the start-finish line. Maybe Piers Maserati, we need to have a look at his car and see if there's any damage in case there was some contact between the two of them, but I suspect it was more of a mistake than anything else. The beautiful look, you not really mentioned the M5 much really at all. Fantastic looking car of Jamie Sturgis. We regularly see Jamie Sturgis racing far more contemporary machinery with the likes of TCR cars and things, but the number 87 BMW looking absolutely beautiful. The 535 E28 machine in its period livery. How's he getting on, Jamie Sturgis? He is in 14th position at the moment, Jamie Sturgis, and is lying 6th in his respective class. So, but it's just nice to see that Beamer out. It really does look beautiful, absolutely beautiful in its full period livery. So 6 minutes remaining. Everybody has now conducted their mandatory pit stops. Some of the squabbles still continuing out on circuit. Out of Hamilton comes the number 31 car, which is going to be Now a change of drive will have taken place there. It will be Matthew Molyneux that's behind the wheel of the car. He is coming under pressure from a car that's trying to lap him, actually, the number 47 Porsche in the hands of Ryan Moan. Ryan Moan is running in 7th place overall, the number 47 Porsche 944. He also leads his class as well. He runs in the 80s group. It's a 1980s car, and in Class B, which is for those cars between 2.5 and 3.3 litres. So he eases his way past the orange BMW, heading down the Bentley straight and in towards Brundle and Nelson. Another car that is working its way through the order. I've got black and white warning flag going out on the pit wall as well, so that's suggesting that somebody has transgressed the circuit limits one time too many and has attracted the attentions of the officials. Wait and see who it might be. With 5 minutes to go. Certainly looking very good for Stuart Dayburn, with the best part of nearly a 30-second advantage over everybody else, but there's still some great scores to be settled. Stuart Dayburn working his way through the traffic still, comes up against Matthew Molyneux's BMW, eases his way past at the wheel of the V8 engine TVR, heading over the start-finish line. We've also got a good little fight going on between Matthew Irons in the E21, the yellow BMW, round through Palmer. He is having a little squabble with Mike Stevenson's Datsun 240Z. Stevenson's down in 20th position and is just been lapped by that Matthew Irons BMW, and also now diving up the inside to lap him as well as they head in towards Agostini's Jamie Sturgis at the wheel of the M535. But it's a beautiful looking car. I've always liked the shape of the Datsun 240Z. Oh, we've lost Stephen Scott Dunwoody, I'm afraid. The car that was running in 3rd position, the Ford Sierra Cosworth, the RS500, is out of this race, I'm afraid to say. Difficult to tell on track where that is, I'm afraid to say. From that angle, it looks like it might be the inside of Oggies possibly, but it's very difficult to tell from the angle that I'm looking at. But I think it's the inside of Oggies, and on the run up towards Williams is where he's retired. Yes, it is. Yep. So yeah, he's come out of Oggies, and the car has sort of faltered on him, and there's a gap in the barriers on the inside, which he has rather conveniently and sensibly brought the car towards to allow the marshals to simply push it back behind the barriers in that gap. So short-lived with the yellow flags in that area. They're already withdrawn because the car is behind the barriers and out of harm's way. But for Stephen Scott Dunwoody, it's not to be, I'm afraid. And now what that does is it promotes everybody else that was behind up a place, of course. So we now have Piers Maserati at the wheel of the number 146 Porsche, now up into 3rd position overall, the car that finished 2nd in this equivalent race last year. And now 13th and 14th place, just coming around through Murray's at the moment. Matthew Irons in the yellow BMW, under attack from Jamie Sturgis in the M535 for 14th place. Matthew Irons leads his class, Jamie Sturgis is 6th in his class, but they are fighting for position. Over the start-finish line goes the 3 Series, chased by the 5 Series. Wonderful soundtrack they both make, the 6-cylinder engines, as they thread their way up towards the braking area for Ritchie's corner. More powerful 5 Series BMW behind, but of course it's a heavier car than the E21, which is that little bit lighter. And for Matthew Irons, he knows his car inside out. For Jamie Sturgis, I don't think I've seen him drive this car before. I'm sure it's not the first time Jamie's driven it in the past, but it certainly is a fantastic looking car, wonderful sounding car as well. But that's a good little fight that's going on, and I'm sure that will continue to rage for what is really almost going to be the final lap now, because there's little more than 2 minutes remaining on it, as Stuart Dayburn is already over the start finish line and onto lap number 18. I think he'll get the lap he started and one more in, actually. So I think Stuart Dayburn is now onto his penultimate lap, I should say. Penultimate lap. So the 3 Series and the 5 Series still busy squabbling away. Matthew Irons still under attack and under the cosh from the advances of Jamie Sturgis as they work their way out of Hamilton. The yellow 3 Series BMW still ahead of the largely red and white 5 Series that sits behind. The gap is closing up, though, that is absolutely for sure. Jamie Sturgis set his best individual lap of the race last time through, 2 minutes 20.9. That was the best part of 1.3 seconds quicker than Matthew Irons could muster. So Jamie Sturgis is on his way. They're both heading down the Bentley straight at the moment, and I don't think Jamie Sturgis has got enough straight line speed to work his way past. No, so Matthew Irons will still hang on to the position. 13th place this is as they head in towards Brundle and Nelson, but in his mirrors it is full of 5 Series Beamer at the moment. So through Brundle, through Nelson, up towards the fantastic corner, the bomb hole, where the circuit sort of dips down to the inside. It's almost banked on the way in and then flattens off again on the way out, up towards Corham, which is an easy corner if it weren't for Murray's coming up so quickly, because you're trying to brake and rotate the car at the same time. So the back end of the car gets really light. You've got to start to brake slowly and then slowly increase the brake pressure as you get further and further round through Corham before you then turn your way in towards Murray's and accelerate your way over the start-finish line. A little bit of smoke, though, coming out of the back end of the 5 Series that time through. 30 seconds to go as those two head over the start-finish line. But for Stuart Dayburn, he is closing in on them because he is the next of the cars that's right behind them. So there is the race leader. Ahead of him, it's the BMWs as they head round through Ritchie's corner. So those Beamers will now be onto their final lap of the race. A bit of bodywork flying off one of the cars there. Was that the Ford Escort that dropped off? There was just something I saw flick across the screen there. And I think that might have been Chris Smith's number 28 Ford Escort that either hit something that had already been deposited on the track, or he deposited a bit of his own car. So for our race leader, Stuart Day, he put a victory in 2021 here at Snetterton on the 300 circuit when he secured top slot in the Advantage Motorsport Future Classics on that occasion by 48 seconds. Well, he leads by 31.6 as he started onto his final lap of the race. A little bit more traffic for him to deal with. He's dealt with both of the BMWs now, so he's gone past Jamie Sturgis, he's gone past the yellow 323i of Matthew Irons, and then it's just a case of making sure that he keeps everything neat and tidy and sensible as he turns his way out of Oggies up towards Williams for the final time, and then it's the blast down the Bentley Straight and the final few twists and turns of Brundle and Nelson, the bomb hole, Corham and Murray's, and Stuart Dayburn is going to make it victory number 1 of the season and mean that 2 years on the bounce he will have won the Future Classics race here. He was out yesterday racing, of course, so you could argue he had the upper hand because he had a bit more understanding of what the circuit was like and what the track was like as a result of competing yesterday, but you've still got to bring that through and still do the job the next day, and Stuart Dayburn has been leading pretty much from start to finish other than the pit stop window. I think the battle of the two Beamers is still going to end up the same way as well. Matthew Irons and Jamie Sturgis, I think, will still end up in that order as well. But for the final time, round through Corham comes our race leader. Stuart Dayburn qualified on pole position, nearly 2 seconds quicker than anybody else could muster. He turns his way out of Murray's for the very final time and accelerates his way towards the checkered flag, which is being readied for him, and it's going to be 2 years on the trot now here at Snetterton on the 300 circuit, where Stuart Dayburn has claimed victory in the Advantage Motorsport Future Classic Series. So congratulations to Stuart Dayburn. He raises his hand aloft and acknowledges the spectators and the marshals as he works his way round on the slowing down lap, where Chris Buxton will grab a quick word with him when the moment is opportune. We're still awaiting the arrival of Rob Hollyman over the start finish line. There's gone Ryan Moan just through. He finishes in 6th place and wins his class. But the next of the cars is just coming up now. Lights ablaze for Rob Hollyman. Through goes the light blue Porsche. He will finish in 2nd position in the end, some 32 seconds adrift of Stuart Dayburn, the race leader. We still need to await our Group 1 winner, which is for the 1970s cars. That will be Piers Maserati, who will be threading the Porsche 911 Turbo through the final few twists as well. It's just making its way up towards Murray's now, the final corner. So he will be heading towards the checkered flag very shortly at the wheel of the red Porsche 911 Turbo, the 3.3 litre car, which was started by brother Miles Maserati, and Piers Maserati now is accelerating his way towards the checkered flag and takes the checkered flag and finishes in 3rd position. 4th place will go the way of the Marcus Manciulla of Matthew Lewis. He should be over the start-finish line before too much longer as well. I think he's just working his way through Corham and up towards Murray's, and there's still a few more cars also to take the checkered flag in the likes of the Richard Harman and James Slater car, which I think might have picked up a penalty somewhere along the way for probably transgressing the circuit limits one or too many times. There goes over the start-finish line Matthew Lewis, who finishes in 4th position. 5th place, the Harman and Slater car going through, and Ryan Moan has already taken the checkered flag in 6th position. So a few more cars just to take the checkered flag, and then we are done and dusted with the Advantage Motorsport Future Classics. They will pack things up and head to Thruxton in Hampshire for their next couple of rounds in just a few weeks' time, before they'll then head towards Anglesey beautiful, picturesque circuit, long, long way from Snetterton. But if you've never been to Anglesey, absolutely, I encourage you to go to that one, because it will be hopefully nice weather when we get there in May. And it is a very picturesque circuit to go and watch motor racing at as well. And hopefully that will all be live streamed as well at the Classic Sports Car Club meeting at Anglesey in May. So the cars making their way in towards the Parc Fermé area. We should be able to confirm the results with you as well. Stuart Dayburn claims the win by a large margin in the end from Rob Holliman, with Piers and Miles Maserati finishing in third place, not just winning their class, but winning the 1970s group. Matthew Lewis finishes in fourth place, ahead of the Harman and Slater Porsche there in fifth place, with Ryan Moan winning his class in sixth place. And we also saw a class winner in seventh place for the beautiful BMW of Rob Sadler, who was partnered up with Luke Shalevich. Sam Smith from the pit lane start not only won his class but finished inside the top 10 in 8th position, and it was the Wright brothers, I think they are, that finished in 9th place, the number 25 BMW, with car number 281 Josh Smith completing the top 10. Outside of the top 10, in 11th place, it was 351 Darren Claydon, with Matthew Irons finishing in 12th place after a great battle with Jamie Sturgis, who ultimately finished in 13th position. 14th place went the way of Chris Smith, with Molyneux and Gilby finishing in 15th place. The 177 car of Simon Spooner was in 16th place, and it was the pairing of Pidcock and Thompson that finished in 17th, ahead of Robertson and Moody in 18th place. The Claxtons with their Dolomite Sprint in 19th position, and it was the 240Z of Mike Stevenson that finished in 20th. Mike Conway was the last of the finishers in 21st place. Problems for Stephen Scott Dunwoody late into the race with the Ford Sierra, and issues brought Mark Chilton into the pit lane from the sharp end of the race. So that gives you the results for the Advantage Motorsport Future Classics, and hopefully we will very shortly be able to catch up with a driver or two who will be down there in the Parc Fermé area with Chris Buxton, ready to gauge some reaction, no doubt, from Stuart Dayburn, hopefully from Rob Holliman, and maybe we might be able to chat to the winners of Group 1 as well. Miles and Piers Maserati, who did a stunning job to bring that car home in third position. So that's the first of our races done and dusted for today. We've got more action coming up shortly from the Mintax Classic K, but before we get to that, let's hand you downstairs to Chris Buxton for some reaction.
Thank you, Mark. We have our podium sitters for the opening race of today's festivities. We have got Stuart Dayburn of the mighty number 70 Tuscan. Well, Stuart, 2 years in a row here in Snetterton, and you were on pole by 2 seconds, and you were 2 seconds quicker than everybody else. What an achievement, sir. Bravo.
Thank you very much indeed. I feel quite fortunate, really. It's the guys that run the car that make it go like that. It's not just me. And they've done an amazing job. We came here Friday for a little test, and it was much quicker than last season, and it stayed like that all weekend, so really pleased with it.
So you were out in it yesterday. You qualified in fairly bipolar weather with the mixture of sun and sleet and goodness knows what, and still it just hasn't let you down.
No, it's been great. We had a few issues with it yesterday, and it was the brakes more than anything else, and I'm pleased to say they work. Otherwise I probably wouldn't be here.
Evidently, yes.
But no, it's, the car's going really well, and it's the guys at SpeedTech that make it great.
Excellent stuff. Well, will we be seeing you throughout the rest of the campaign?
Definitely, yes. We've got Thruxton and Anglesey booked already, because that's all I can do so far. But obviously we'll book in as much as we can.
May she sail you well, your battleship Grey Tuscan. Thank you very much, Stuart Dayburn, the winner of today's race. Right, we need the driver on number 9. Here he comes, Mr. Holliman. Well, stunning performance, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, we didn't qualify quite where we thought we would. The cars were on last year's tyres, and we've got a bit more pace to unlock, but we got the right result in the end. I don't think there's any way we were going to catch the guy in the TVR, so we couldn't have done any better.
But even still, you had to fight your way towards the podium positions. What was kind of running through your mind leading up to the race?
Don't really know. You just sort of go out there and go as fast as you can, don't you? Try and overtake whoever's close to him, whoever you can get near.
A fair answer indeed. And will we be seeing you for the rest of the year?
I don't know. We entered the swinging 60s this weekend, but the gearbox broke on the old car, so we switched to this one last minute. So we hope to get that one back out, and we'll bring this one along if we can.
A last-minute change is still on the podium. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Rob Honeyman, for an amazing performance there. Let's see if we can get hold of Mr. Maserati. Here he comes. Piers. So started by Miles. And again, incredible pace in the tail end of it. Are you pleased with the result?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the car's like so hard to drive. It's old school 4-speed box, loads of power, no brakes, no, like sideways everywhere. It's amazing to drive. But yeah, I sort of was behind the marker, so I was being really careful. He was a bit all over the place. In fairness to him, desperate to try and keep me behind, I think. And then he went off, and then I managed to go for it more. And yeah, just enjoy the race. Nice to be out in the car again. Nice to get it out. So yeah.
It's great to see you in your beautiful Porsche. Thank you very much, Piers Maserati. We look forward to seeing you the rest of the year. Next up, it's the Mintex Classic K. They have just left the holding area, and we can't wait for the racing to come. Over to you, Mark Werrell, in the commentary box.